They were weeks from land. The food was gone. And they had to make a choice. Several choices, actually. None of them good. This is what happened when Vikings ran out of food at sea. First, let's appreciate what they actually brought with them. Vikings packed dried fish, mostly cod, extremely dried, like almost architecturally rigid. They called it skyr and dried mutton and hard flatbread that could survive a small war. Salted butter packed in barrels, which sounds disgusting. It was probably fine. And ale. Always ale. Water went bad fast at sea. Ale did not. So the diet was already pretty grim before anything went wrong. Now, what happens when that runs out? Option 1, fishing. Obviously. The North Atlantic is full of fish. Herring, cod, pollock. The ocean was basically a free buffet. If the weather cooperated, if the sea wasn't doing something insane, if the fish felt like it. Archaeological evidence from Viking Age middens confirms they were skilled open water fishermen. They used nets, lines, and bone hooks. Sometimes weighted nets dragged behind the ship while underway. Raw fish, if necessary. No fire on a wooden boat. You eat what the ocean hands you. Option 2. Birds. Seabirds land on ships. They rest. They don't always fly away in time. Gannets, puffins, guillemots. All documented as Viking food sources. Puffins in particular were eaten frequently. They taste like fishy, greasy duck, apparently. Vikings also carried live animals on longer voyages, primarily goats and sheep. Compact, useful, portable protein that also gave milk. Goat milk could be drunk fresh or curdled into a primitive cheese. When the animal stopped being useful alive, it became useful in a different way. Now here's where it gets interesting. Whale. The Old Norse word hvalreki, stranded whale, was considered an extraordinary stroke of luck. A beached whale could feed an entire village for weeks. A whale at sea was a different proposition. Vikings did hunt whales. There's documentation, there's archaeological evidence. It was not casual. Hunting a whale from a longship with hand-thrown harpoons is, by any reasonable metric, insane. And yet, they did it anyway, because they were hungry and also apparently unbothered by physics. Whale meat is dark, dense, and extremely high in fat and protein. Ideal survival food. Whale blubber could also be rendered into oil and used as a calorie source or to preserve other food. Option 3. Seaweed. Certain North Atlantic seaweeds are edible. Dulse, kelp, bladderwrack. They knew this. Dulse in particular was documented as a Norse food source going back to the 12th century. Possibly earlier, it tastes like salty, chewy ocean, which is exactly what you'd expect from a thing that lives in the ocean. It also contains iron, magnesium, and B vitamins. Not that Vikings knew any of that, it just didn't kill them. Now let's talk about what the lack of food actually did to the body. Starvation at sea is not fast. It's methodical. The body starts dismantling itself in a specific order. First it burns fat reserves, then muscle, then, eventually, organ tissue. The brain gets a vote on almost none of this. A reasonably healthy adult can survive without food for 30 to 40 days. With water. Without water, 3 to 5 days. Which is the more immediate problem on a saltwater ocean. Drinking seawater will kill you. It dehydrates you faster than nothing. The Vikings knew this. They collected rainwater, using the sail as a funnel. Simple, effective, still cold, and miserable. Fish also contain significant moisture. Eating raw fish provided both nutrition and hydration. Blood from freshly caught fish was also consumed. Not glamorous. Statistically beneficial. Now let's talk about the thing nobody puts in the history books. What happened when a crew member died at sea? There is no confirmed direct evidence that Viking sailors practiced cannibalism at sea. Let's be precise about that. However, other seafaring cultures in equally desperate situations absolutely did. And the Norse sagas, which are not exactly shy about graphic content, go suspiciously quiet on this topic. What we do know is that the body of a dead crewman was typically given to the sea, quickly. This was both practical and ritual. You don't keep a decomposing body on a small boat, you just don't. Let's move on to something more cheerful, like scurvy, vitamin C deficiency, gums bleed, teeth loosen, old wounds reopen. The body forgets how to hold itself together. After about a month at sea with no fresh fruit or vegetables, this starts. Norse explorers on routes to Iceland or Greenland were typically at sea for 1 to 3 weeks. Fine. Routes to North America, Vinland, took significantly longer. Scurvy became a real problem. The accidental cure they stumbled onto: fermented dairy. Skyr, the Icelandic fermented milk product, contains small amounts of vitamin C. Not a lot. Enough. They didn't know why it helped. They just knew crews who had it lasted longer. Also, pine needles. Certain Norse communities brewed a tea from pine needles. Pine needle tea is loaded with vitamin C. We know this now. They just thought it tasted acceptable. They also packed dried cloudberries and lingonberries when they had them. Both are high in vitamin C. Both dry well. Both last months. Extraordinarily convenient. Now, let's talk about the psychological dimension of running out of food at sea. Hunger and dehydration cause cognitive decline. Decision-making gets worse before the body does. You start misreading stars, misjudging currents. The ocean stops making sense. Several Norse sagas describe ships that simply vanished, sailed off the known routes, never returned. Some of those were probably storms. Some were probably navigation errors made by men who hadn't eaten in 2 weeks. The Norse had a term for dying at sea without witnesses. It didn't have a heroic connotation. A proper Viking death happened on land, at home, with people watching. Sea disappearances were the bad kind. Let's come back to food. Specifically, what they did with food, they did have to make it last. Salt preservation was essential. They packed salted fish and salted meat with obsessive precision. A well-salted piece of meat could last months. A poorly salted one became a biological experiment within days. Hákarl, fermented Greenlandic shark, was another long-duration food, technically edible for over a year. Fresh Greenlandic shark is toxic. Fermentation neutralizes the compounds. It takes months to make. It smells like ammonia. This is not a survival food born out of crisis. This is a food someone invented deliberately. That person had opinions. Smoked horse meat was also documented on longer voyages. Horses were sacred, but also edible. The Catholic Church actually tried to ban horse eating among Viking converts. The Vikings mostly ignored this. Insects were not a documented Viking seafood, probably because you can't exactly farm them on a long ship. Let's talk about what actually saved most of them. Navigation. The best solution to running out of food at sea is not finding creative protein sources. It's not being at sea that long. Viking navigation was genuinely sophisticated. Sun compasses, star charts, ocean current knowledge. They also used a device that might have been a solarstein, a sunstone, to locate the sun through cloud cover. Calcite crystals act as polarizing filters. Held correctly, they reveal the sun's position even behind clouds. This sounds like mythology. It isn't. Modern experiments confirmed it works. The Vikings knew things. They also used birds, specifically ravens. The sagas describe releasing a caged raven. If land was near, it flew toward it. If it came back, you were nowhere. Floki Vilgerdarson is recorded as doing exactly this on his voyage to Iceland. It worked. They called him Raven Floki after that. This was considered a compliment. Also, whales, dolphins, and certain birds clustered near land. The sea told you where you were if you knew how to listen. Seaweed density increased near coastlines. Floating debris from rivers meant land was close. Water temperature and color changes indicated specific currents. Each one told a story. The point is, most Vikings did not casually sail into the open ocean and hope for the best. They planned routes, monitored supplies, turned back when necessary, which does take a certain amount of the romance out of it. They were practical, not mythological. And yet, things went wrong. Routes got extended by storms, winds died, fog swallowed everything. There are accounts of Norse ships blown wildly off course, sometimes weeks in the wrong direction. One saga describes a crew surviving for nearly 3 months adrift, fishing, rationing, waiting. Some of them made it. The ones who survived shared a few characteristics: physical conditioning, caloric efficiency, and the willingness to eat absolutely anything. Disgust is a luxury. At sea for long enough, everything becomes just a decision. The body is also surprisingly inventive when starving. Hunger signals become less intense after the first week. Adaptation. This is not the body being kind to you. It's the body rationing its own distress because it needs the energy. Metabolism slows, body temperature drops slightly. Every calorie becomes a negotiation, which is why rest was critical. A rowing crew burns thousands of calories a day. Stop rowing or die. Sails were the survival option when men were too weak to row. Use the wind, don't fight it. Drift towards something useful. To summarize what a starving Viking ate in rough order of preference, then raw fish, seaweed, whale blubber, blood, anything the ocean offered and didn't actively prevent you from eating. The Norse diet at sea was a spectrum that started at rough and ended somewhere that doesn't have a word. What's remarkable isn't that some of them didn't survive. It's that so many did. They colonized Iceland. They colonized Greenland. They reached North America 5 centuries before Columbus. All of this on dried fish, fermented dairy, whatever they could stab out of the water, and sheer unwillingness to stop. The ocean didn't care about them. It didn't make exceptions. It was cold and enormous and indifferent, and they crossed it anyway, repeatedly, with wooden boats and dried fish and frankly unreasonable confidence. We find that impressive now. From the comfort of a room that has food in it. They probably would have found us baffling. The feeling is mutual. If you found this unsettling, good. There's more where this came from.